Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Silver Underground Podcast, episode 3. If you're new here, first off, welcome. How you guys doing? This is a weekly podcast where I discuss a unknown, forgotten, or critically panned movie and basically let you know if it's worth your time or not. I'm your host, Doug. Now, I'm very new to podcasting, and with each episode that comes along, I learn a little bit more when it comes to like editing and audio recording and whatnot. There's still a huge learning curve, but I want to give you guys the best possible product that I can produce. So recently I was listening to the first episode, and there were just a lot of things that I feel like I missed. I know that I'm never going to be truly happy with the outcome of a lot of these episodes, but the whole point is I just feel like I can do it better, but I just don't want to watch violent shit again. So I decided to watch the sequel. Violent Shit 2. The fact that Andreas Schnaas managed to make not just one sequel, but 3 sequels out of a nothing movie like Violent Shit is baffling to me. But I guess it just goes to prove that you can honestly make a sequel out of fucking anything. Yeah, this movie came out in 1992. The synopsis goes... drilled by his deranged mother, Carl the Butcher Jr. takes revenge for the gruesome death of his father. Anyone who sets foot in the forest has to die. Hold on to your limbs as Carl Jr. slaughters his victims to some amazing tunes of terror. Decapitation is just the beginning. What a fucking description that was. Thank you, IMDb. You never cease to amaze. Yeah, this movie, once again, written, directed by Andreas Schnaas, our Lord and Savior. I don't know who asked for this sequel. It seems like a lot of people did. I mean, it just... From this movie, there's somehow a following. I don't know. I don't know who was a fan of the first one. I don't know how you could be a fan of the first one. But let's get into it, I guess. So Violent Shit 2 starts out with a drug deal by 2 Asian gangs. The drug deal seems to go south, and they all decide to fight to the death. And of course, because they're Asian gangs, they know Kung Fu, so Kung Fu ensues. And honestly, nothing about this really screams slasher movie, but there are some pretty cool gore effects, and honestly, right off the bat, the cinematography as well as the kills are a huge jump in improvement. You can tell that the budget for this movie went from $5 to $10. It's still not good, don't get me wrong. There's a really cool punch to the throat effect where like the fist goes right through some guy's throat. The editing's still very weird. There's no shitty filters though, and it seems to go at a normal frame rate. So again, huge improvement. The movie is at least watchable. Then the title killer is revealed, and he looks like a knockoff of Jason. I'm looking at the photo of him right now. It's like this weird metal hockey mask type of thing, but this is the title murderer, slaughterer, killer, whatever you want to call him. This is Carl Jr. You don't find out he's Carl Jr. until a little bit later, but he is the grown-up baby of the first movie. So I guess that's explained-ish, or that's followed up. It's a total Jason ripoff, though, and that's exactly what this movie is. If the first movie was I guess it had undertones. If the first movie was a somewhat ripoff of Halloween, this one is a 100% ripoff of Friday the 13th. But yeah, not Jason kills the last standing drug dealer, and then we are given a title sequence with a major epilepsy warning. Because this title sequence, it's like you're in a fucking club and you're staring straight at a strobe light. It is rough to watch. And you get this original song, metal song, that's, passable, I guess. You get the title sequence, Violent Shit 2, then VS2. This movie has so many fucking titles in it. And the title sequence is pretty Grindhouse-esque. I didn't mind it, besides having to turn the lights on in my room and make sure that I looked away from the strobe lights so I didn't have a fucking seizure while trying to watch some shitty movie. But it goes from the title sequence to a news report about a killer from the 60s who apparently shared a cell with Carl the Butcher from the first movie. So right off the bat, we're already getting some backstory, and we're actually getting kind of a plot, which is another huge step from the first movie. The fact that there's actually any kind of plot. And we get a bit of a time frame. Like I said, it centers around a killer from the 60s. However, it's mentioned that in the mid-60s, Carl Berger, who's Carl the Butcher's actual name, Carl Berger, escaped in the 70s, which I guess kind of makes a little bit of sense if thinking about the first movie. He's being transported in a Volkswagen bus, which can count as a 60s, 70s vehicle. Some of the cars didn't look 70s, but I'm not too keen on German cars. I guess they could pass as 70s cars, but they really just looked more like late 80s cars. Anyway. Actually, no, now that I'm thinking about it, some of the shit that they used in the first movie was not 70s. Whatever. But the fact that they tried to give some sort of backstory and some sort of plot, it's like they're trying to fix the first movie in the second movie. Yeah, we're treated to this news story about Carl Berger, who went on a killing spree and died. And then we're back to another Looney Tunes transition where it shows Carl's mom, or Carl Jr.'s mom. This is some lady that I guess knew Carl the Butcher from the first movie. She, I guess, buried Carl's body and took care of his son that he gave birth to and raised him. The weird thing about this is, one, there's a woman that loved Carl the Butcher from the first movie. The zombie looking wart face. Okay, whatever. And two, the actress that they got to play Carl Jr.'s mom is a younger actress, which is fine. But they obviously wanted to make her look like an older lady, so they have really bad older makeup on this actress, which begs the question, why didn't they just hire an older actress? Especially when it's showing the flashback of this woman burying Carl Sr. Her face is covered. So they could have totally have gotten away with having an older actress play her. Especially in this flashback scene, but fucking whatever. It's a Friday the 13th knockoff because Carl Jr. basically kills in the name of his mother, who's not actually his mother. But anyway, after we're done getting all kinds of exposition and whatever for this for the first movie, it's right back to formula. We cut over to some teenagers camping. They get fucking killed. Same shit as the first movie. It's just better done gore effects, but more or less the same shit. And then I kind of realized watching because the quality is a bit better. when some of these people die, you can still see them breathing. It's kind of funny. So I understand now why they had those weird filters in the first movie, because they hire actors that don't know how to play dead bodies. Um, yeah, some of them die. He takes like 3 of these teenagers and ties them up and ritualistically tortures these kids, while his mom is like sitting there kind of telling him what she wants him to do and stuff like that. That scene is actually pretty disturbing, and honestly it would be far more effective if it was done in a better movie. And I can't appreciate that the kills are not fucking dragged on in this. Oh my god, they get to the point. And there's also this weird incestual relationship between Carl Jr. and his mom that they try to kind of push throughout this movie to, again, kind of up the disturbed factor. It doesn't really work for me because, like I said, if it was an older actress, it would have been like very hard to watch. But because it's a younger actress in old lady makeup, it doesn't really work. And also, she's not really his mom. Unless just for some fucking reason she is. I don't know. She's not his biological mom. It doesn't make it better, but it just didn't work for me. But yeah, some of the kills are pretty cool. I mean, the way he kills, I don't remember how he kills these people. They all die. The deaths are a little bit more creative, but the sound effects that they use for these deaths, like one guy gets his head cut off by a shovel, and it just kind of sounds like you're squishing an orange together, like the juice sound that makes. And a woman gets her hand cut, and again it's like squishing like oranges or something like that together. It's not a good sound effect. A little off-putting. But after he kills those kids, we cut to a training montage. For some reason, his mom's like, you have to kill everyone that comes in these woods to avenge your father. For some reason, and so Carl Jr. starts training, and his training basically just consists of like jumping or hopping in the air and just kind of waving his machete in circles. It looked a lot like watching Bill from King of the Hill train for some reason. It I don't get the point of this scene, but it's in there. And it goes on for way too long. But then it cuts to 2 kids that are going fishing. And it sounds like they're in a fucking windstorm. And I can tell that the Andreas Schnoz has never fished in his life, because one of the kids says, "Oh, this weather is perfect." Now, I've gone fishing while it's been incredibly fucking windy, and never once have I ever said, "Man, the weather is perfect right now," because it fucking sucks fishing in the rain. It's possible, or not in the rain, in the wind. It's possible to fish in the wind, but like it's not. If it's fucking windy, I'm not going fishing out, But he kills those kids, whatever. They show up on the screen for less than 5 minutes and they're already dead. It's just, what are you going to do? That's what this kind of movie is. It then cuts to a group of construction workers, and this scene really kind of drove home for me the fact that I don't really think Andreas Schnoz really likes labor workers or construction workers, because just like the last movie with the groundskeepers, he depicts these construction workers as lazy pieces of shit. And I don't think these actors really know what construction work is, because I'm watching them and it's like the equivalent of watching workers on the side of the road just standing in a circle over a manhole while one guy is working in the manhole. Like all these guys are standing around and one guy is just kind of climbing on an excavator. I don't know what the fuck they were working on, but Carl shows up and easily takes out this group of 6 or 7 construction workers. They lightly jog away from him. One guy even tries to climb like a dirt hill, and he's having a hard time climbing when you could easily see, like, if he just ran around the dirt hill, he would have easily gotten away. But whatever, we had to get a death. And then out of nowhere, Carl pulls out a fucking gun and explodes some dude's head away. And like one guy's death, like, he thought he was actually gonna get fucking murdered. His screams were a little too convincing. But yeah, he slaughters these construction workers. There were some pretty cool deaths. Like, honestly, the gunshot effect when, you know, someone actually gets shot and the blood coming out, it was actually pretty well done. I'm sure if I was on set and I didn't know that there was like a squib under some guy's shirt or under some guy's hat, I'm convinced that, you know, and I saw like a gunshot go off and blood squirting out like that, I'd probably scream like that one guy too, honestly. It was pretty convincing. But yeah, he kills them pretty easily. I don't know where Carl got a gun from. He literally pulled it out of fucking nowhere. Honestly, like, when you see Carl walking, and by the way, there's a lot of POV shots where they just kind of put the mask in front of the camera and just awkwardly walk around the woods. But when you see Carl walking, you only see his machete on his back. You never see, he's got like a butcher knife too, and apparently a fucking gun he just pulled out of his ass. You only see the machete, so he pulls out weaponry out of fucking nowhere. It's like the GTA equivalent of weapons. It's fucking hilarious. But then we cut to a guy jogging. And while he's jogging, he's like lightly parkouring off of like jungle gym equipment and swings and stuff, while Carl is like stalking him. And this scene honestly gave me Monty Python and the Holy Grail vibes. It like when King Arthur is running up to those guards, and those guards are just staring at him, and it's the same shot over and over and over again until he eventually like runs up and stabs them. It's almost the exact same here. But Carl attacks the jogger, and the jogger, mind you, this jogger is like some scrawny looking kid. He kicks Carl's ass. Like, in the scene literally before, Carl takes out 6 or 7 construction workers, no fucking problem. Granted, none of these construction workers really bothered to like team up on him or really fight at all. But this jogger, he gets the upper hand so much until Carl eventually just pulls a knife out and stabs the dude. And then proceeds to cut all his limbs off and his head, which is actually a pretty cool effect. This was the one kill, though, that did go on a little too long. Like, you know, he cuts off this guy's limbs and then he fillets him and pulls out spaghetti that I'm assuming is supposed to be his intestines. And then he drags his head off, plants it somewhere in the dirt, and the head is still kind of moving. I liked it, but it went on too long. Like, I got the point pretty quick. Carl is then, it's not, I think it's within the same scene, Carl finds a road and gets fucking ran over. And then the driver and the passenger get out and try to see if Carl's okay. I mean, they don't know he's a killer, whatever. And Carl quickly kills the driver. The passenger runs away, but Carl pulls out a fucking rope with razors on it and lassos the passenger and fucking cuts her head off. It's actually a pretty cool weapon. I've never seen anything like that before. The effect was done, you know, as well as it could be. But the idea of the kill was kind of cool. I'm not going to lie. And then we go back to Carl's mom reading him Bible verses. And this is actually something that is kind of cut throughout the movie. Not necessarily in between kills, because like it does go from like kill, then Carl's mom reading him something, and then kill. But she reads him Bible verses, or she reads him fucking like schmut erotica. Like there's no in between. And I don't know, like the Bible verses, I think that's just trying to tie in like the whole Jesus thing in the first movie. I don't get where they're trying to go with that, but it's in there. But she reads this stuff to him as he's going to sleep. And then we go to a dream sequence. I think it's a dream sequence. It starts out as a dream sequence, and then it ends in, I'm assuming, him actually killing someone, but he basically stalks some woman in her sleep or at her house. And Carl basically is dreaming about stalking some woman at her house and just watching her until he eventually murders her. It's a very weird and off-putting scene. It really did not need to be in this movie, but that's as far as I'm going to go with that scene. Then we cut to Carl walking into a movie theater where he proceeds to shoot up the movie theater, which is obviously supposed to symbolize the poor critical reception that the first movie got, or I should say the well-deserved critical reception that this movie got. The director didn't like how poorly the movie was received, so he's going to symbolize shooting up an audience. That's real classy, Andreas Schnauz, real classy. After that scene is done, Carl Jr. goes back home where his mom's head falls off. She gets decapitated somehow. And while the head is in her lap, the head looks up at Carl Jr. and goes, "Your dad's back." And then fucking cut to black. So, huge sequel bait right there. I wonder what the third one's going to be about. We then go back to the news reporter from the beginning of the movie, in case you fucking forgot that they were trying to go there with this story, which honestly would have, I think, been way more interesting. I don't know. I feel like it would have been more interesting if it went this approach. But the news reporter realizes that the story is going nowhere because no one's seen Carl Sr. in, I think at the time this was like a couple of years. So he just gives up on the story, and then the movie ends, and then we get yet another title, Violent Shit, Mother Hold My Hand. And then the same metal title song that we got from the beginning, title sequence. And that's Violent Shit too. Honestly, this may surprise you, but I kind of liked this movie. It's not a good movie. It's not by a long shot. But it's enjoyable. I mean, it's or I shouldn't say enjoyable. It's watchable for what we get. Where the first one had absolutely no plot and, just left me dumbfounded. This one at least gave me some enjoyment. Just the fact that I could at least coherently see what's happening is a huge plus. It may not be as memorable as the first one. I mean, the only thing that I really remember from the first one was the killer crawling into Jesus and then giving birth at the end for no goddamn reason. But yeah, I mean, as far as a sequel goes, yeah, this is a huge improvement. This one has a 3.8% on IMDb and doesn't have any score on Rotten Tomatoes. So, I mean, another low-scored movie. But honestly, I think this one, I would say this one's worth your time. It's still not a good movie, don't get me wrong. But, like, this is one of those movies where I feel like you can have, like, some friends over, have a few beers, and just laugh at a bad movie. It does kind of fall under the it's so bad it's good category. But, like, this one is making its rounds on YouTube as well. I have this on DVD. And, yeah, I don't know if it's just because my IQ level has dipped significantly since last week, or if I'm just getting sympathy for some of these movies because I got some enjoyment from it. I mean, the fact that this guy managed to make a sequel out of fucking nothing. He didn't just make a sequel. He made 4 fucking movies. And I guess there's a 2015 French remake of this movie too. This movie's a fucking franchise, okay? I guess props to you for having some sort of creativity. And the kills are a bit improved. But yeah, that's my review. I recommend this. I don't recommend this. I don't know what I'm saying. What is happening? Anyway, if you like this episode, consider giving me a follow. I am on Instagram at Silver Underground Podcast. I'm really nowhere else. I do have a Threads, but I don't really post on there. Instagram is my main social media, but follow me on Instagram if you want any updates and news on the show. You can follow me on SoundCloud and Spotify at Silver Underground Podcast. And that's the show. I will see you guys next week. Thank you guys for listening. Bye.